Good evening, dear friends. Welcome Nathan. We are expanding our age range over here. We actually have, I think I told you this, for this course, it's not in the evening class. In the morning class, we have, how many was it? 2.5. The other, we have 3 generation units in this course, in the morning class. 3? Yeah, 3. A grandmother, a grandfather, at least one child, and then even a grandchild, which is the first time, and to have 3 all of a sudden, it's But now we also are extending down into the teens. Okay, so dear friends, well, welcome Nathan. Make yourself at home. If it gets boring, just let me know. We'll try to spice it up a little bit. Okay. I want to thank the Newman family for sponsoring this course in honor of Nathan's bar mitzvah. Did you know this course is in honor of you? Okay. Very good. Okay, that is very good. So Mazel Tov, Nathan. Now Nathan is a... Okay, dear friends, here's a story. You ready for the story? Here's a story. What does a Jewish telegraph say? Telegram. Telegram? Yes, telegram. What does a Jewish telegram say?
Start worrying. Details to follow.
Start worrying. Details to follow. There we go. What we're worrying about, we don't know, but we're worrying. That's all. Okay. What's the difference between an optimist and a pessimist?
Pessimist has more experience.
Pessimist says things are so bad it can't get any worse. The optimist says, oh, sure it can. Okay. Dear friends, today's topic is a little bit heavy. Above adversity. We all face adversity in life. We all face challenges of all different forms and types, like losing your power for a full day. Is that stressful? Okay, it's a little bit stressful. So the big, the small, everything's big in the moment, right? And sometimes problems could be very, very big. Real stress, real agony, real just things going wrong in life. And this was definitely a big, big topic that people would turn to the Rebbe for blessings, for advice, all different forms of adversity. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, I just want to share a little bit of historical context here. I really think the historical context it's really fascinating. And I think it's maybe a little bit underappreciated historically. So, the Rebbe was born in 1902 in Ukraine, in Nikolaev, Ukraine. And the Rebbe did not have an easy childhood. The Rebbe did not have an easy life. There's no question about that. The Rebbe witnessed World War I when the Rebbe's family moved to Dnipropetrovsk, which was then called Yekaterinoslav. Here we have a Dnipropetrovsk Jew, right over here. A local, okay. 30 years ago. Listen, the home never changes, no? Okay. So Dnipropetrovsk was an area where, during World War I, Jews were kicked away from the border area because the authorities, whoever it was, felt that Jews were more prone to not being loyal, and they would spy more. So they kicked them all inland. So you had hundreds of thousands of Jewish refugees. And the Rebbe witnessed, and the Rebbe says that his mother made it her personal business to manage all of this whole stream of Jewish refugees. The Rebbe saw a lot of suffering and pain. The Rebbe witnessed World War II. The Rebbe had family, a brother-in-law, and sister-in-law who were murdered in the camps. The Rebbe himself barely survived, and himself was on the run for many, many months until he finally miraculously made it to America. The Rebbe's father was persecuted by the Soviets to the point that they tortured him to death. So this is the type of life that the Rebbe grew up with. Until they came to America in his 40s, the Rebbe knew what a hard life is. The Rebbe knew what a hard life looks like. Then the Rebbe comes to America. It's during the Holocaust. And in 1950, the Rebbe begins being officially a Jewish leader. And what does the Jewish world look like then? the Jewish world is battered and beaten, and there wasn't a good, positive energy in the air. There wasn't a joy. There wasn't optimism. We just lost 6 million Jews, brutally murdered. So the Rebbe had every single reason to be down and negative and cynical about life. But perhaps Rebbe's trademark was, what he's so well known for is his optimism, his Rebbe's positivity. The Rebbe really, really had a positive and joyful outlook on life in a very special way. And I think it was really radical. The Rebbe was really a radical. The Rebbe came to a Jewish world in 1950 who, they weren't healing yet. It was still in paralysis. I heard from somebody, he was a child in the mid-1950s in Brooklyn. He said in his community, every single Jew in shul had numbers. Every single Jew. Besides his father. He says his family was the only one who didn't. But they would go to shul on Shabbos, every man and woman had numbers. And he had no clue what it was. So he asked his father once, why do all these men have numbers? His father didn't want to tell him. He said, you go ask them yourself. So he went over to a man, and like a little boy, just asked, what are those numbers on your arm? So this guy said, this is what he remembers, that when we lived back in Europe, we were one of the first houses to get a phone line. And my mother was worried that I'd forget the number to call back home. So she wrote it down on my arm. People weren't even beginning to process what they lived through. This is in the mid-50s. So this man told me, no one even spoke about it. It wasn't, there was no healing process even beginning yet. And the Rebbe came with such a strong, broad vision for the Jewish world, for the Jewish people, what we're going to do, and the positivity. Such a message of positivity, despite all this adversity, despite the darkness. And that's what we're going to be looking about today, at when we personally face those moments of darkness, adversity, which is all different types. Some of them are pretty benign, they're very stressful in the moment, but in the long run they're not a big deal. Some of them truly are very long periods of life which are deeply stressful, where we're deeply pained. And that's what we're talking about, different types of challenges. I don't know if we should include in the scope of today's class real deep tragedies, real traumatic loss. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. I don't know. Maybe it's going to distract if we. Maybe let's not go too deep into painful situations. But for sure, for the most of it, even though I think maybe all these principles do apply, even by real tragedy. But dear friends, if you look in your books on page 118, you will see here the 3 areas of adversity we're going to be addressing tonight: situational adversity, social adversity, and personal, which means things that happen to you, situational. People who are making your life miserable, that's social. People who are getting in the way of you simply living your life, living your success. And number 3, personal, the problems that come from within. Your own character flaws, your own character defects, your own inner demons, which are making you trip over yourself. Okay, now I want you to identify one specific, this is very personal, I'm not going to ask you to share this, and maybe you don't even want to write this down if you feel it's too personal. I want you to mentally identify 3 areas of adversity that you have faced in each of these criteria: situational, social, personal. Let's identify something, and then we're going to go through today's class. I want to give you a moment to do that. How are we doing? Doing okay? Okay. Let us begin the journey. And let's first start off with the ideas, and then we'll see how the Rebbe applied these ideas. Let's get the lights. Let's start with our first video. You ready? All right. Look at this. Such an eager crowd. All right. Let us begin with challenging situations. There we go. Challenging situations. Here we go.
The Sheikh Chabad Convention in Detroit, Michigan. let's say 20 ladies went, figure out how many children did we leave at home. Baruch Hashem, on Ainor.
It was in February 1979, and Monday morning, the women, took off for the airport because they were all planning to travel home.
In Brooklyn, in the shadow of Grand Army Plaza, some parts of Eastern Parkway are plowed out. But as you can see here, other parts of the parkway are not at all plowed. These cars stuck and good.
The Rebbe hat geholfen. There was a terrible snowstorm. So all the ladies are sitting at the airport in Detroit. No planes.
To give you an idea how bad it is and how long it may take for New York City to dig itself out of all of this snow, that tow truck is attached to this city's snowplow.
Miriam Popak's the head of Neshei Chabad out-of-town conventions at the time. Now her daughter, Mrs. Feldman, took over. She went to the telephone and she called New York.
They have to get home, and here's the snowstorm, and they all began panicking. And they asked my mother to roll up 770 and ask the Rebbe for a bracha. They should be able to travel home.
There we got the cliffhanger. What's gonna be? Okay. So they called the Rebbe, they're all stressed out, they gotta get home, there's no planes, what's gonna be? We all relate to that, right? No one wants to be stuck at DTW, right?
Especially in those days.
Especially in those days. You know, I only landed once in Detroit before they built a new terminal. I don't remember what it was. What was it? I think it was like 2006 they built the new terminal, right? All right. I remember it under construction. It was when I first started learning in yeshiva over here. Okay, so dear friends, what did the Rebbe respond to this group of 20 women? They were not happy campers. So let us begin our journey into the Rebbe's outlook, and then we'll see how the Rebbe applied it. Let us read a piece of the Talmud. In the Talmud tells about a certain rabbi, lived in the 1st century of the Common Era, right, about 2,000 years ago, a great sage. His name was Rabbi Nachum, but they gave him a nickname, a moniker, and they called him Rabbi Nachum Ish Gamzu, which means the man of Gamzu. Why do they call him the man of Gamzu? Because he had a quotable quote. No matter what happened, he would always say, Gamzu Latova, which means this too is for the good. It was like, things go wrong, Gamzu Latova. He always had that nice, cheery attitude. So let's read this story. Shall we begin? What do you say? You ready, Debbie? Text 1, page 120 from the Talmud. Here's the story.
Why did they call him Nachum Ish Gamzu? Because no matter what would happen to him, he would respond, Gamzu Latova, this too is for the good. Once the Jews wished to send the Caesar a gift to gain his favor. They asked themselves, who should we send to present this gift on our behalf? Why don't we send Nachum Ish Gamzu? After all, he regularly experiences miracles, and we need one right now. They provided Nachum with a chest filled with jewels and pearls as the gift, and sent him on his way. During his journey, he had to spend a night in a certain inn. During the night, the folks living at that inn surreptitiously removed all the valuables from the chest and refilled it with plain soil. The next morning, Nachum realized what had happened. Unfazed, he trustingly declared, Gamzu Latova, this too is for the good. Nachum arrived at the Caesar's palace and dutifully presented his gift. The royal officers opened the chest and saw that it was filled with soil. The Caesar roared, the Jews are mocking me, and was about to execute the Jewish emissaries. Unfazed, Nachum Ish Gamzu trustingly declared, Gamzu Latova, this too is for the good. Just then, Elijah the prophet appeared before the Caesar in the guise of his trusted minister. He suggested, perhaps this is the special soil from the Jewish patriarch Abraham. When he threw soil in his war against the 4 kings, it miraculously turned into swords mid-air. When he threw stubble, it turned into arrows. The Romans were then at war with a province that had proven itself indomitable. They took some of this earth, tested it by throwing it toward the enemy lines, and rapidly conquered that province as a result. When the Caesar realized that the gift of soil indeed contained miraculous powers, he ordered his servants to enter his treasury and to fill the chest with precious jewels and pearls. He presented the chest to Nachum Ish Gamzu as a token of appreciation and sent him off with great honor.
It's an unbelievable story. Although Nachum's like, come on. He discovers that they robbed his whole gift. He's like, it's good. Don't worry about it. We're going to chop your head off. What? It's good. All's good. Like, come on. Can't be a little bit more grounded in reality, no? But he didn't flinch. He didn't flinch. And it becomes a certain Jewish attitude. Gam zu l'tovah. This too is for the good. In Israel, there's a modern line, Gam ze ya'avor. You ever heard that line? You know that one, right? Which means this too shall pass. That's weak. What does the Talmud say? Gam zu l'tovah. Not just this will pass. This is good. It looks bad. This is good. Now, this is a foundational belief of Judaism. That no matter what happens, this too is for the good. Why would we believe that? Why would somebody believe that everything has to be good? It comes from two basic beliefs of Judaism. Now, therefore, I'm going to share this with you. Now, really, each of these ideas are very rich and deserve a full class just to really study what's the basis of it, what's the theology, what's the philosophy behind it. But this is not a philosophy class. Here we want to get down to the practical, meaningful ideas that could hopefully change our lives. But these are the basic ideas. These two. Everything is for the good, number one, something called divine providence. Divine providence means that everything that happens in this world is the direct result of God's personal providence. We Jews don't believe in coincidence. Nothing is by chance. Most people think that what happened? God created a world. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. God created a wonderful set of laws called the laws of nature. And God pressed play, and all the laws went into action. And then God said, okay, everything is working out nicely. And okay, every now and then God has to come in and do his veto power, split some seas. So then God comes in and does miracles. That's maybe conventional wisdom. But Judaism says no. Every single second, every single moment of life, nothing in this world happens without God personally directing and orchestrating that event to happen. If a leaf falls off from a tree, God decided and planned that leaf shall fall off for a reason. The Talmud tells us that God personally oversees which fish is going to eat which fish in the ocean, which is an amazing idea. God prepares the sustenance of every single fish. And God doesn't just say, I put billions of fish, billions of stuff in the ocean. Everybody figure it out. God personally plans each and every single one. Which fish by which fish. Nothing is outside of God's personal providence. So if something is happening in our lives, if something is affecting us, something is happening to us, that is something that God is personally doing to us. And that leads us to point number two. Point number two, divine goodness. God is good and everything he does is good. We Jews believe in a good God. Nothing that God does is not good. If God is doing it, it's good. So we believe in a personal God. Nothing happens without God's involvement. And that God is good. And therefore, whatever is happening in my life must be good. It's very simple. 1 + 1 = 2. Right? No other conclusion. Which means philosophically, there is no place for bad in God's world. It's impossible. There's bad. Okay. It looks bad, but it's good. This is the belief. This is the basic idea. Which means, now this is of course a big subject. What does that mean? People experience real pain, real tragedies, real things that do go wrong, and have real bad results in life. It's a big question. But let's see. Let's keep on going through this over here. Nothing could ever be written off. When a negative experience happens to us, we can't write it off as just a curse, as just something negative. Everything ultimately comes from God and is for your good. Okay. Let's think a little bit about this attitude. I want to process it a little bit more with you. Everything that comes from God is good. Like Rabbi Nachum said, everything, this too is for the good. So in America, there's a line, an idiom, that says, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. What's the message behind that line? What's the idea?
Something bad into good.
Make something bad into good.
Stay positive.
To stay positive.
Make the best of it.
Make the best of everything.
But lemons are good.
But lemons are good.
It's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor. Is it the same idea as what Rabbi Nachum said? This too is for the good? What do you say? No.
I don't think so.
Why not?
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
I argue with myself.
Okay, let's get to that. That was very good. Maybe, yeah, maybe not. Okay. Who else said no? We had a no from here too. No, yes? What do you say? Is it the same? What do you say, Alex? Sounds the same? Yeah.
It depends what you do after the bad thing happens, whether you make it good.
So 1 second. Is when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Is that the same attitude as what Rabbi Nachum said, this too is for the good?
No,
No,
No, why not?
because under that saying, lemons are bad.
Oh.
You have to turn them into good.
The idea of-
What I'm saying is, they can be bad. If you're given lemons, that means that you're given something good.
When life gives you lemons, it's a metaphor. It means that something bad happened to you. You were given a bad portion, a bad lot. Yeah.
And to make lemonade, it's in your power, you're making it good. Saying it's all for the good is putting it in God's hands.
Aha. Okay, that's an interesting one.
But God giving you lemons was divine providence.
Oh, exactly. So could it even be bad? Well, that gives you lemons, make lemonade basically means make the best out of every situation. So I know all you got was lemons. Lemons aren't good. And how much could you sell lemonade for? It's not going to get you that much of a profit. But at least you won't come out with too bad of a loss. So that gives you lemonade. That's the idea of saying, try to make the best out of every situation. Now, no one's saying that getting lemons is optimal. If you would be getting Chardonnay grapes, you could be selling some good stuff over there. Lemonade, I don't know, you could be selling high quality wine. So, but you don't get grapes. You got lemons. Let's say your lemons are moldy.
What if the grapes are moldy?
What if the grapes are meaning it's saying, whatever you could do, try to do whatever you can, right? It's like the Jewish attitude, right? Yeah, get by, make a living, it works out. Okay.
If you get grapes, you're really in a jam.
You're really in the jam. There you go. But that's not what Rabbi Nachum was saying. What Rabbi Nachum was saying was, not just this is a negative, but we could try to make the best out of it. This is good. It is not bad at all. It's totally good. There's a book I'm reading now. If you want to read it, it's a very fun read. It was written by a Chabad rabbi. It was a very colorful history. He was not raised in a religious family. He was like a wild troublemaker kid. And then that's exactly what led him to the Rebbe. And he became Chabad's very first shliach on a college campus at UCLA in Los Angeles. He went by Schwartzy. They didn't call him Rabbi Schwartz. Schwartzy. So you're already getting what type of personality this guy was. Very colorful character. He didn't dress like a rabbi. He realized that if he wanted to connect with college kids in the early 1970s, he dressed in jeans and like a tie-dye T-shirt, and that was how he rocked the town. Interesting guy. So I'm reading a book that was published after he passed away. He passed away pretty young, very tragically. The title of the book is "I Love When That Happens to Me." I love when that happens to me. I think that kind of captures Rabbi Nachum's attitude. I had a whole chest filled with good stuff, and it got stolen. I love when that happens to me. It's amazing. He's not saying this is horrible, but we'll make some lemonade. He's not saying let's make the best out of it. No, I love when this happens. We're going to chop off your head. I love when this happens to me. What? Okay. That was his attitude. So let's put this up over here. Conventional wisdom is thumbs down. It's a bad thing happened. But what are we going to do? Okay, we'll try to make the best out of a bad situation, right? Well, like gives you lemons, we'll make lemonade, we'll try to make a little bit of a profit out of what happened over here. The Rebbe's approach is a total opposite. That the challenges are in fact good opportunities for good and great things to happen. We love when this happens. So sometimes the stress comes because you think you're writing your life. We make plans and we know what's meant to happen. And we decide what should happen. We decide when we should be where and what we should be doing and where we're supposed to be spending our money. And the stress comes in, it kicks in when it doesn't go according to our plan. And this attitude from Rabbi Nachum teaches us, let go of what you think should be happening, and sometimes realize that God has perhaps a better plan. Who said your plan is so good? You really know the future? You really know what's meant to be? God knows what's meant to be. So say, this too is for the good. Or like Schwartz used to say, I love when this happens. So you missed a flight, you're stuck in it. I love when this happens. Okay, that's okay. Being stressed out is very human, but that has to be the attitude. So now let's read what the Rebbe wrote to the ladies. These ladies called the Rebbe's office and said, we're 20 ladies, we're stuck in Detroit. You got to help us out. Give us a blessing. Da-da-ba-da-ba-da. What does the Rebbe say? So 2 minutes later, they got a call back. This was the days we were able to direct call a payphone. Remember those days? So direct call back to the airport payphone. And this was the Rebbe's response that the secretary said. The Rebbe just wrote a response for you, and he read it to them over the phone. Text 3. We're going to go to text 3. Let's read.
Your response is extremely surprising. I have spoken at length and repeated over and over the Baal Shem Tov teaching that we should do everything we experience as a guide to our personal service of God. In fact, you have certainly included this very insight in your own speeches. Despite that, when you personally experience something unplanned, you disregard the plainly obvious divine intention for which God orchestrated that event, and you search for utterly bizarre alternative interpretations, such as your concern that God did this to cause you distress, heaven forbid, by thwarting your ability to return home, and so on. You have considered everything but the obvious. That is, there is an opportunity to further disseminate knowledge of the Torah and its mitzvot to a greater extent than you already accomplished via the convention. God therefore decided to cause snow to fall down from the sky in order to grant you the merit to complete that goal, namely, to spread Judaism in an unusually abundant and powerful way, like the unusually plentiful and vigorous snowfall in the city, at the airport, via local newspapers, and so on.
So I was giving them a hard time. Has all my education to you gone to naught? I've taught you to see the good in everything, to know that everything's by divine providence, to know that God is leading us on the right path for us to do our mission, for the good things to happen. And you're busy sitting in the airport, and you're stuck, and you're lifting up your hands and being stressed out. What type of business is this? What should you do? Realize that God is giving you a message. You're not stuck. You're meant to be there. What's the whole mission? Why all these ladies went to the convention? The theme was to spread Torah and mitzvahs. No. You're still at the convention. Get to work. God is telling you you're still meant to be there. Let's close the lights. Let's watch the next of this video.
These are the words of the Rebbe. Monday, Chaf Bei Shvat. The Baal Shem Tov's teaching that every occurrence contains a directive in serving Hashem is a topic that has been spoken of and discussed at length innumerable times. I am sure that you too have given speeches on this topic. Yet now, when an incident has happened to you, you seek to attach the most distorted possible interpretation. That is absolutely amazing. The simple and obvious reason for the delay is this. It is possible to disseminate Torah and mitzvos to a far greater degree than was accomplished during the convention. You are therefore being granted the merit through the snow which descends from heaven of completing the above task with an extraordinary abundance and intensity of Judaism, similar to the extraordinary abundance of the snowfall. Your efforts in completing the convention's task of disseminating Torah and mitzvos should be extended to the city, the airport, publicity in the newspapers, etc.
Women ran around the airport giving out Shabbos candles.
Some women went off to the university campus. Some of them set up different booths in shopping malls, also with Shabbos candles and talking to the women about all the mitzvahs of the Jewish women. After they reported to the Rebbe of everything they had done, this is what the Rebbe answered. It is a particularly great merit when the Almighty points with a finger and clearly shows one what to do from on high. May all your activities undertaken as a result of this divine indication be highly successful. It is obvious that each and every woman will soon travel and reach home, for she will have completed her mission.
How long were they at the airport?
We got
Well, they left there.
they were able to leave.
They left there. They left there.
I don't know. We have to look up the records from 1979. Yes.
So, does God multitask? Did that snowstorm have 100 other effects on different people, or was it just for those women?
So if we want to be wild about it, a few million people were affected by that snowstorm.
Right.
Every single one of them had a reason and a purpose that whatever nuisance they had to go through because of that snowstorm, yes, God had a plan for this.
So it was multitasking.
It's got to be that way. Meaning there's no other way to explain it. Meaning every single person who was affected by it had to tell themselves the exact same thing. God is pointing me to a certain situation, a certain circumstance. Okay, so this is the attitude. The attitude is not we look back and see how could we try to make the best out of a bad situation, but this is too for the good. This was the right thing for it to happen. Now, dear friends, there's all types of stresses. Sometimes we just be stuck at the airport, and the next day we forget about it. Sometimes there's real stresses. And one second, I'm going through real pain. It's not just a little bit circumstantial, a little bit lost a flight, got a little bit this. What's the good in there? How could we say that really painful things are good for us? Even when I go through so much pain and adversity, could you really always say this? Sometimes it's a little bit of a tough pill. So I want to share with you a few ideas. A few ideas how the Rebbe explained how, yes, sometimes the suffering really is good. It's not just a bad that will lead to good. It's not maybe we can make something good out of this bad. It really is good. So I'll share with you two ideas. At least two. So let's begin like this. In 1977, Simchas Torah, and we watched this in one of the previous classes. It was Simchas Torah, and in front of the entire shul, the Rebbe is there, Simchas Torah night, thousands of Jews from all throughout Brooklyn and New York are there to celebrate Simchas Torah with the Rebbe. This was one, it was known, Simchas Torah being by the Rebbe was magical. It was such a intense, joyous atmosphere. And in front of everybody, in the middle of the joy, the Rebbe asked for a chair. The Rebbe sat down, and everybody saw the Rebbe's face was very, very pale. And everybody knew that, got to get out of here. They emptied out the shul. They said the Rebbe needs fresh air. And later on that night, they discovered the Rebbe had a very severe heart attack, a life-threatening heart attack. And the Rebbe was in a critical condition. And as you could imagine, the atmosphere went from Simchas Torah, joy, everything's amazing. And there was a real panic, a real fear, and just a lot of stress that took over the whole Chabad community. What's with the Rebbe? Is it ever going to be okay? And it's also interesting, until then, this was the Rebbe's first, at least, public medical episode. And even though the Rebbe was at a pretty advanced age at this point, the Rebbe seemed kind of invincible. The Rebbe was so energetic, and the Rebbe was just doing and so successful, and just, there was such an energy to the Rebbe, nothing could go wrong with the Rebbe. And all of a sudden, the Rebbe has such a scary heart attack. And the Rebbe now has to be, the Rebbe's not available for the next few weeks and few months. There was a real panic. In any case, at the very final hours of Simchas Torah, the Rebbe every single year would hold a public farbrengen, a gathering, one of his, always at the last hours of the holiday of Simchas Torah, the afternoon hours of the final day of Simchas Torah. This is the first year that the Rebbe is ill. The Rebbe's resting there. And at that point, no one even knew exactly what the Rebbe's situation was. So all the Chassidim came to 770, the time when the Rebbe would usually have a farbrengen, but there's nothing doing there. Everybody's just there, a little bit kind of depressed, but everybody just gathered because this is where we would usually be right now. And the Rebbe sent out a message to be shared with all the Chassidim, men and women, downstairs in the large shul. The Rebbe said like this. The Rebbe said, just a few hours ago, the doctor who was tending to me came to take a blood sample. So he came with a syringe. And so I asked the doctor a question. What causes the blood to be drawn? Is it the prick or is it the vacuum of the syringe? The doctor said, no, the prick only allows access to the blood. But what actually pulls blood out is the vacuum, the pressure of the vacuum in the syringe. And the Rebbe said, I just want to share with you that that's the way it works with life as well. Sometimes it is specifically within a vacuum where there's a pressure. There's nothing good here. I don't have fulfillment. I don't have goodness. I feel like my life is empty. That itself is what truly forcefully brings in new opportunities, new blessings, new strengths. And the Rebbe told the Chassidim, I know that we're going through a difficult time right now, but this is not the end of the story. This is the vacuum, the pressure, which is going to bring even more goodness later on. This was a message of comfort the Rebbe gave everybody. And it's true. There's no question about it that the Rebbe had so much more of influence, more power, more activities happening, specifically after the heart attack. In a certain way, you could say it was a turning point in the Rebbe's life. The Rebbe became so much more globally impactful, specifically after this. Because of the challenge, because of the pressure, there'll be even a more forceful pull of new opportunities, new blessings. And this is an idea in Judaism. Sometimes we go through a difficult time, and in the moment it's very painful. But we have to know that that is actually it's the beginning of a blessing. It's the beginning of a new opportunity. It's the beginning of something new. And it gets something amazing to come flowing. Let's read text 4a from the Talmud, page 125. Bonnie, we're up to you, right? Text 4a.
Rabbi Yochanan taught, why are the Jewish people compared to an olive? To inform us that just as an olive provides its oil only through being pressed and crushed, so does the Jewish nation return to the good path only through the suffering they experience.
All right, now read the next text as well, text 4b.
The process of extracting olive oil is described in the Torah as crushed for the luminary, specifically in the era of exile. When everyone is broken and crushed, are we able to reach our inner luminary?
So we all have great juices. We have great light inside of us. Sometimes you don't find it until you go through a difficult time. But that itself, being crushed, this itself is releasing all that goodness. The pressure itself is what brings out our greatness. And you know what? So many of us are born with unbelievable potential and unbelievable power and unbelievable goodness. Just such good juices inside of us. Such amazing light. But just like an oil sometimes, an olive, if it's never crushed, it's never going to come out. So you can have somebody who's living a wonderfully comfortable, convenient lifestyle, but at the end of the day, the inner goodness has never emerged. And sometimes, I'm sure we could look back at our lives and sometimes see this, going through a challenging time, a crushing time, that itself, it taught us who we really are. Wow, I have such resilience, I have such patience, I have such goodness to share with other people. Whatever it is, I have such strength. That itself brings out your own inner goodness. This is one idea that Judaism shares. The vacuum of a syringe draws out the blood. The absence and emptiness in life draws forth more intense energy. And this is the first idea of hidden power. Adverse experiences unlock access to inner strength that we might not have known about. That's number one. The second idea, going beyond that, going even deeper. Not only does adverse situations help you find inner goodness, but it also very often is the key to uncovering greater good. Which means like this. Let's go back to the story of Rabbi Nachum Ish Gamzer. Right, very simple story. The Jews need to find favor in the eyes of the Caesar. So they fill up a chest. The Jews weren't too wealthy, so everybody gave whatever gold, jewels they had. Put it in a little chest. We'll bring it to the Caesar. That was plan A. Plan A, all right, not happening. So what's plan B? We're going to bring dirt. So Rabbi Nachum says, okay, plan B is plan B. Let's do plan B. This too is for the good. Which plan would have been better? Plan A or plan B?
If he knew that plan B would work,
So now we know. We know what happened with plan B. Plan B worked. So plan A, so which one actually would have been the better plan? Plan A, everything going without a hitch, or plan B, that we got stuck with dirt? Which one ended up being greater?
B.
B. Why not A? A wouldn't have worked just as well? Oh, you want to give a Roman Caesar, you want to give a Roman emperor jewels? Who are you trying to impress? He needs these Jews meagerly little gold. Stop doing me favors. Stop trying to this. Plan B, even though it looked like that we're in big trouble, it looked like all was lost, but really it was so much of a better outcome. What truly impressed the emperor? What truly said, wow, this is a gift. This is a gift worth looking at. It was plan B. And the Rebbe says, so often that happens. You make a plan, and it's not a bad plan, but God has a much greater plan. And what happens? Until you realize how great plan B is, you're busy stressing out. Why? Because you had plan A. And you just simply don't know that God said, 1 second, I've got something better for you in store. So sometimes you just have to have that little bit of faith and trust in God and hold off with the stress and just simply say, this too is not just for the good. This too is the best thing that could be, right? I love when this happens to me. Just wait for it to play out. God is involved in your life. If something is not working out according to plan, you should actually embrace it. Be like, wow, God is taking control of the situation and giving me the better plan. Isn't that really awesome? Sometimes God says, okay, you got to figure it out, no problem. You do you. You do you. And sometimes God says, no. Let me mix in over here. It's an unbelievable idea. So what we perceive as pain and stress, and 1 second, just wait it out a little bit. Text 5, unbelievable text. Where are we holding? Rachel, right? Page 126.
Faith vindicated. At no point did Nahum Gamzu suffer any harm. On the contrary, had he delivered the original gift of gems to the Caesar, there was no guarantee that the Caesar would receive the gift graciously, for the Caesar had no shortage of his own precious gems. By contrast, his gift of soil wound up being received very graciously indeed.
Oh. So the plan B, although it looked like a really bad plan, it actually ended up being a much more greater, more effective. It was just simply there's no way you could look back and say, it would have been better if we would have just stuck with the original plan. Now here's the thing, not always do you see it. Sometimes it takes a day to see it. Sometimes it takes a month, a few months. I had a thing, I tell you after class, I don't want to bore you with all the details. I just recently had something at the beginning of COVID, 2020. So not that recently anymore, huh? Time flies since COVID. COVID played around with the time a little bit, okay. What was that? You agree with me, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I had something where something was very stressful in my life, and only like half a year later, I'm like, wow. Like, all of a sudden, I saw a news story, and all of a sudden, wow, I cannot believe what stressed me out. And this, okay, but that's for another time. But sometimes it takes a long time to see it. Sometimes, I don't know, maybe you'll only know after 120. But it takes a lot of trust. Sometimes we do see it, how plan B was really the greater plan. Everything was working out for the best. Sometimes you won't see it. It does take a lot of trust. It takes a lot of trust. But the Rebbe always wants to encourage people to see this. Even if you're going through a difficult time, know that God is involved in your life. No person is forsaken by God to the forces of nature. Doesn't exist. And therefore you have to have the faith, and you have to keep yourself in a good place. Don't be a victim of circumstance. Live life, live joyfully, live positively, embrace life, live life, breathe life, and know it's all cool. I love that this is happening to me, even if I'm stressed out about it. Both could be true at the same time. You could be stressed out the plans aren't going good, and you could also tell yourself, okay. So I'm not the only one in control. That's okay. God is taking good care of me. I'm loving that this is happening. I don't know yet why it's happening. We'll find out soon, hopefully. I want to show you a video. I was not planning on showing this video, which means that if I show you this video, we're going to be going over time. But it's a good video. And I think it's very timely, so I want to share this with you. So, Israel, for its survival, had to fight many wars. And thank God that God has made many miracles and helped Israel survive despite all the odds. But every single war comes with casualties. Unfortunately, soldiers die. And what gets sometimes even less attention are the ptsuim, those soldiers who get hurt, disabled, some very severely. You know, young men. It's usually men, very young, and all of a sudden, what? become paralyzed, body parts don't work, their feet were blown off. And what happens to these young men? So there's basically, you're part of a unit of the IDF. You become a veteran, right? You become right away a veteran. And you go into the title in Israel was called Nechei Tzahal, the injured of Tzahal, the disabled of Tzahal. And what would they do? They would get a pension from the state of Israel, thanking them for their sacrifice. But they always lived under this shadow that, we were the collateral damage for Israel's survival, and look at us, we're going around in wheelchairs in our early 20s. That was kind of there was no joy in their lives. In 1976, a whole group came from Israel. Israel sponsored them to go to Paralympics. They were, doing sports was one of the ways how Israel helped them, keep active. And one of the organizers of the trip called up the Rebbe's office and said, we would, we're in America. Would the Rebbe care to see a group of us, disabled veteran IDF soldiers? And I want to show you this video. It's 6-7 minutes long, but I really feel that you see this attitude so much over here in this video. Oh, such a special video. Here we go. You ready? 1 second. Hidden blessings. This is the next idea, right? Challenges and setbacks set the stage for even greater blessings and greater opportunities. And this is the first idea. Situational adversity. The Rebbe teaches us to look for the hidden opportunity in challenging situations. Look for it, know that it's there, and if you don't see it, you got to believe it's there. You got to believe that that's what's really happening.
מלחמת ההתשה, נפצעתי, והשיקום הממשי שלנו היה דרך הספורט. השתתפנו כשחקני כדורעף בנבחרת הנכים של ארגון נכי צה"ל.
ב-1976 התקיימה האולימפיאדה בטורונטו, בקנדה, והייתי מהמייסדים והמובילים של הארגון הזה לשיקום נכי המלחמה. וחשבתי שלא יכול להיות דבר יותר מובן מאליו מאשר לטוס לניו יורק ולבקר את הרבי. והתקשרתי למזכירו של הרבי ומיד התקבלתי בתשובה חיובית בחמימות וקבענו את המועד.
אני שגדלתי בקיבוץ חילוני, במסגרת חילונית, שכל הקשר שלי לדת היה רחוק מזרח ממערב, שיוסי לוקם אמר שצריכים להיפגש עם הרבי מלובביץ', אמרתי בסדר, אוקיי, ניפגש איתו, זה לא... שמעתי עליו.
הם שכנו בבית מלון במנהטן, אז כמובן שאלו שדוברי עברית נשלחו להביא אותם. כמובן הביאו אותם באוטובוסים מיוחדים, אוטובוסים בלי מושבים, כדי שיוכלו לקשור כל אחד עם העגלה שלו. לכן בסמסמנטי הוציאו את כל השולחנות מול הבמה של הרבי, שהרבי יושב. אז בעצם הושיבו שורות של חיילים הפצועים על כיסא גלגלים.
וכבר כשהתקרבנו, כשירדנו מהאוטובוס, חשנו בעמולה, בהתרגשות הגדולה מסביב. הגענו לאולם גדול, בית הכנסת הגדול, ומסביב היו אלפי בני ישיבה חרדים בהתרגשות גדולה.
מוכרח לומר, אני אישית בהתרגשות רבה. וזו הייתה איזו רוח מיוחדת, רוח של קדושה. ויצא הרבי ועלה לבמה ודיבר אלינו.
אני אדם בעבור אשכנזית, שהרגלתי בתקוותי שכולם יבינו את זה.
היה איתנו מתורגמן שעמד לתרגם ביידיש, ולהפתעתנו הרבי דיבר איתנו בעברית, בעברית, מה שנקרא עברית של ביאליק, במילאל. וראית שעומד מולך איש מאוד מיוחד, מאוד אחר, והמסר שלו היה, אתם חזקים, אתם גיבורים, אתם לא נכים.
אין בייתי נכה מהשם שנסים למישהו שהוא נכה, שזה אומר על משהו נחיסוס וירידו, כי אם אדרבה צריך להדגיש בזה שהוא משהו מיוחד ומצוין על ידי ברי האדם שנוסן לכיחס מיוחדים יסיירים על מה שישנו לאדם מן השורה ולכן דווקא ביכולתי להסגבר על קושיים ומניעס שאין ביכולת להסגבר עליהם לאדם מן השורה. ולכן הייתי מציע שישנו השם ויקורו מצוינים בישראל.
ישבנו קסומים שמה, האזנו לדרשה שלו. ואני כאדם שעסקתי כל חיי בתחום הזה, אני יכול לומר שדברי הרבי היו נר לרגליי, ומצאתי אנשים שנפגעו בצורה הכי קשה, עיוורים ומשותקים וכן הלאה, ובמעט שנשאר להם, הם הגיעו להישגים הכי גדולים שאדם יכול לתאר לעצמו, שזה דבר שאדם שלא מכיר את התחום הזה וכן הלאה, לא יכול להאמין. וזה הרבי תפס מיד כשהוא ראה אותנו וכשהוא קיבל אותנו.
ובעזרת ההתייחסות של הרבי שקרא לנו מצויני צה"ל, בעקבות זה, עם השנים אני הייתי שותף להקמה של ארגון שנקרא אתגרים. ארגון שמנסה באמצעות ספורט אתגרי, לקחת ילדים עיוורים וקטועים ומשותקים וגרועי נפש מנטלית. היום אני מביא אותם למאות, לאלפי, אפילו לעשרות אלפי החולים שלי, ובצורה זו אני מצליח לרפא אותם.
המאור פנים של הרבי היה מאור פנים, תמיד היה מאור פנים של הרבי, העירו באור יקרות, אבל בפעם הזאת היה משהו מיוחד ויוצא דופן, שראו איך שהרבי מגלה אהבה מיוחדת.
בברכו ותדע רבה על הכובד הגודל שנזכבדתי על ידי הביקור שלכם, והיא רוצן שרבי פעמים תצליחו להוביל שמחה ואב ויהדות בכל מקום שתבקרו, הם בחוץ לארץ ולאחרי זה גם כן בארץ הקודש.
וכשהוא סיים את הדרשה, הרבי ירד אלינו. דבר שאמרו לי שזה דבר שהוא לא מקובל. הוא ירד אלינו, לחץ את ידי כולם, ידי כל המשלחת, הוא לחץ את ידי. זה היה מין חיזיון שקשה לתאר אותו. חשנו שהאיש באמת אוהב אותנו. אוהב את הנתן ומעריך את הנכים שתרמו מגופם לשלמותה של מדינת ישראל.
ולכל אחד הרבי אמר מילה אחרת, והיו כאלו שביקשו ברכה, והיו כאלו שדיברו עם הרבי. אז אני זוכר שהיה אחד, מרוב התרגשות, הוא רצה לתת לרבי מתנה. מה? היה לו כבטמבל של פעם, אבל חדש, כן. הוא נתן לרבי את זה מתנה. אתה צריך לראות באיזה חיבה הרבי לקח את זה. אי אפשר לתאר, ואחרי זה כשהרבי חזר למקום שלו, וצירף את הכובע הזה לסידור, מחובקים ביחד, ככה יצא מבית מדרש.
It's a very special story, huh? Yes. It's very emotional to see. There's a lot to unpack here, but I think the real message I see here is you have a bunch of people that are living their lives. They're like, all right, you know, we made a sacrifice. We gave up so much for our, you know, for the Jewish people. And like, you know, whatever. Now just live out life. You know, mediocre life. I was ever telling them, you're not a bunch of disabled, damaged goods. You are special people. You have special gifts. God put you in a very unique situation. There's something extraordinary about each and every one of you. Go find that special gift. Go find that special life that God has for you and live it, embrace it. Be excited about yourselves. It's such a special message. These are the people who face real adversity, real pain in life. And this is the message that they ever wanted to give them. So very, very special. Dear friends, moving right along, we spoke about circumstantial, situational adversity. Let's talk a little bit about challenging people. Now, challenging people is a little bit different because people are free choice. Did God make somebody, did God make people give you a hard time? No, I don't think so. But at the same time, God did put you in the situation that, yeah, you are facing adversity from some person, which is never pleasant, but even then, I want to show you three short videos. Two of them are direct, you'll see the other speaking to people, and one is an interview. Okay. Now, yeah, these videos, you got to really watch it carefully, because it's, the first one is a mayor in Israel, all right, a politician in Israel, he was an influential mayor. He was a big macher, he was a shaker and mover, and he got a lot of things done, and when you get a lot of things done, you also get people to not like you. And he just felt that there was a lot of adversity from his enemies coming his way. And I want you to listen to what the Rebbe tells him. Very interesting. The Rebbe focus is on the positive. Realize that there's a blessing here. And also there's a rabbi who was doing something. He was creating a mikveh, he was doing it in a certain way. Actually, Rabbi Israel Meir Lau, very, very famous rabbi. He later became the chief rabbi of Israel, Holocaust survivor. At this morning's class, a bunch of people here said they met him. Rabbi Israel Meir Lau. And he faced a lot of opposition. The Rebbe says, the opposition itself is actually a good sign. There's something good here. There's always something good. So I want you to really follow along, and then maybe I'll unpack with you a little bit as we go along. So, challenging people. Here we go for a little video. You ready?
ואחרון חביב, אם מותר לי לבקש בשביל עצמי פעם משהו. יש הרבה אנשים שרודפים אותי. בגלל זה שאני מצליח לעשות את כל הדברים האלה. ועושים לי כל מיני בעיות. בנושא של חקירות ומשטרות, איך אני מביא כסף מאמריקה, ואיך אני עושה את כל הדברים. הייתי מבקש שהרבי ייתן לי ברכה, שכל הדברים האלו שעושים נגדי, לא יעלה בידי אף אחד, ושאני אצא מכל הדברים האלה חזק ומחוזק.
להיות בעל הבית על המחשבת של איש אחר, זהו אי אפשר, כי הקדוש ברוך הוא עצמי נצא בחיל וחפשי, בכל לכת ואחת בבני ישראל. אבל מה שאתה יכול לבקש, שזה יפיל מזה כל הזיק, ואדרבה, זה יהיה עת יותר, את הפסיקה יותר, כי צבע של יהודים, שהם רואים שמישהו מתנגד, אז הם מתעורר אצלם רצון לעשות דווקא ככלל.
Wir haben Mittwoch bei Untergeschrieben das erste Mal am Mikve Pschitte von Chabad in Tel Aviv, das wird bei Bora und Gabe Bora, neben Kikar Dizengoff auf Rechon Parkova. Wenn ein Stück alle Arunten geschehen ist, wir sind nicht gewähnt, als Sache, kommt in den letzten 15 Jahren.
In welchem Stand der Dinge, wenn geht der Staat, kommen aus den Gewähnchen nie und lassen nicht machen den Tier. Wenn die das gewähnt haben, wollen an dort Tapayir. Schaut sich gewähnt an Jir, und wenn man noch ein Jischu, ist sie nachher meistens Welt im Kulum.
Sie gewähnt ein starker Jid.
Aber die sich ein Batten beratel gewähnt. Weil er hat die Bütze der Miche. Wenn die sie bei der Biene noch Staffchen. Weil zu steht das Loch herab.
I want to unpack that with you a little bit, Louis. Okay, so the first one to the mayor, what does the Rebbe say? They're after you. Use that as a challenge. The way Jews are, that when people challenge them, they only double their efforts. You'll see, you'll get even more done because of all these challenges. And to the rabbi who's getting a very hard time, what does the Rebbe say? Very interesting idea. In Jewish law, there's a rule that whenever there's a contract, if it hasn't been contested, it's always a little bit shaky. Because we don't know. No one ever challenged it. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not good. It's always open to being challenged. But according to Jewish law, once something was officially contested, and it went to court, and the court validated it and confirmed this is what's happening, this is good, this is a good contract, that validates it, that strengthens it forever. So it says it's a good thing. People tried contesting what you're doing, and you persevered, it only made you stronger. So it was always showing that you could always find goodness and strength in this. Then I want to show you another video. This maybe goes even, this is an unbelievable story. Truly an unbelievable story. About the very first black female member of the House of Representatives of the United States. Unbelievable story.
There was a woman in Brooklyn, college teacher, angry black woman named Shirley Chisholm. She got elected to the United States Congress in the mid-60s. She was a fiery speaker. She was considered a black power advocate. Whites were scared silly of her. And she was the first black woman ever elected to the United States Congress, and she was a bomb thrower. So the the white Southern racists that ran the U.S. House of Representatives from the South said, we'll teach this blank a lesson. And they assigned her to the Agricultural Committee of the House of Representatives. It was a great gelächter, it was a great joke. I still remember the New York Times front page article said, does a tree grow in Brooklyn, question mark. They said, you know, the chair, they've appointed Shirley Chisholm, not to housing, which she requested, not to a committee on poverty, but the Agriculture Committee. And when she retired from the House, I was there when she told the following story. She said she was very depressed, very upset, and didn't know what to do. She got a phone call. The Lubavitcher rabbi wants to see you. Of course, she was the congresswoman from Crown Heights. She had some very close relationship with people in the Crown Heights community, and she came to see the Rebbe. She told the story. She had seen him once before when he had refused to endorse her. She said, but then she came to see him the second time, and he sat down and he said, I know you're very upset. She says, I am upset. I'm insulted. What should I do? And he said, what a blessing God's given you. This country has so much surplus food, and there's so many hungry people, and you can use this gift that God's given you to feed hungry people. Find a creative way to do it. And she says the first day she came to Washington, she met a young congressman who's now a world-famous figure, Robert Dole from Kansas. And they started talking, and he said, you know, our farmers have all this extra food. We don't know what to do with it. She said, 1 second, the rabbi. And what we call WIC and food stamps, largely expanded. There was a tiny pilot program before. The whole existing food stamps program came out of the Agriculture Committee of the United States Congress, and Shirley Chisholm said, in front of everyone there in Washington, she said, I owe this because a rabbi who was an optimist taught me optimism, taught me that what God gives, what you may think is a challenge is a gift from God. She said, if poor children, babies, I heard her say this, she said, poor babies have milk, if poor children have food, it's because this rabbi in Crown Heights had vision.
That's great.
Crazy story, huh? What a story. You know, she was busy being insulted and people were harassing her. And the Rebbe says, everything is for a purpose. This is a blessing. And you see, everything was, right? I love when this happens to me. But I'll tell you, so I want to tell you two little stories before we continue going, before we get to our final point. One story is, it's on video, you can watch this. There's a rabbi who actually very interesting. The Rebbe gave him, maybe I'm mixing up. Okay, anyways, there's a rabbi who did a lot of traveling. Not a Chabad rabbi, right? Like a modern Orthodox rabbi. And because they did a lot of traveling, the Rebbe would sometimes use him out. The Rebbe would say, where are you traveling to? And if the Rebbe had certain missions, the Rebbe would give him certain missions. And once the Rebbe gave him a certain mission, which he said was very difficult, and he didn't explain what it was. He said it was even very dangerous. It was not a simple mission. The Rebbe asked him to do something. He did it. Next time he was by the Rebbe, he gave the Rebbe a report. But he told the Rebbe, it was a very, very difficult mission. It wasn't easy. So he says, the Rebbe leans forward and says, and since when did you sign a contract with God that life is going to be easy? What are you complaining about? Which means sometimes we think good things happening mean that it's going to be convenient for us on our terms. So not always. Sometimes stress, but that itself is what brings us to the greatness. But we didn't sign a contract that everything is going to be smooth sailing, but definitely everything is good. There's a difference. Those are not the same. Smooth sailing means you just want a first-class, comfortable chair, comfortable ride, no turbulence. No. You're not going to have convenient lives. You're not going to have kickback lives, but it's going to be a good life. All you got to do is keep that attitude. And another story, there's a woman, an elderly woman who came to the Rebbe, and she complained that she has so many difficulties in life. And the Rebbe said, you don't have many difficulties, you have many challenges. Stop calling them difficulties. Difficulties means you're a victim. Difficulties means that it's just plain bad. Challenges means, it's a challenge. Oh, yeah, 100%. No one's saying it's not a challenge, but a challenge also means there's opportunities here. There's something special here. Dear friends, let us continue going. That is the Rebbe on challenging people. We can either focus on the negativity of a challenging person and say, oh, my life is horrible, somebody's messing up my life, or we can find the potential for the good and accomplish even more, specifically because of this adversity. And if God puts you in a situation that somebody is challenging you, it's only for the good. Go and find that. Dear friends, we only have a few minutes left. Let us speak right now about our final point. We did situational, we did social, how the Rebbe teaches us to find the positive opportunities when facing challenging people. And now we're going to talk about perhaps, I thought a lot about this. I think, what do you say? Internal challenges. What is a greater form of adversity? What is more painful? What is more difficult? Outside adversaries, outside adversity, or internal adversity? Internal, your own personal. Internal. Why internal?
Why internal? Because you're letting everything else affect your life, and you let these people control your thoughts and your mind. And it's up to you. What I've learned in life, I don't know. You just can't let these people rent space in your head.
But that's people. I'm talking about an internal, meaning your own flaws.
Right. That's what I'm saying for my life, where I just don't want to get too personal. So those are the greatest challenges because I've allowed that effect to me, right? Those challenges from maybe outside sources, that they affect me, and I let them repeat themselves in the mind thought, and it controls me even long after the situation happened, right? It's affected my life long after, and it's still controlling my thought.
It's very personal.
You can't get away from it.
Oh, you can't get away from it. It's very personal.
Situation, but you can't leave yourself.
And, there you go. You could walk away from a bad person. If you're stuck at DTW, you're not there for life, right? You will be leaving DTW, and the stress will become an interesting episode that happened to you. But when you have something personal that's eating you up on the inside, inner demons, inner character flaws, inner problems, inner issues, you can't get away from that. And you could fight against outside adversity. Well, you're supposed to fight against yourself. So, I think this is the most painful, the most delicate issue. Your own character flaws, your own shortcomings, your own inner demons that are just bring you down from the inside. But once again, they're created by God. God made you that way. The Hebrew term is called Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara means the evil inclination, and that's the source of all of the impulse to make bad choices and unholy choices and immoral choices and unhealthy choices. And sometimes every single person is a different kind of Yetzer Hara. Some people, their evil inclination is that they're always getting upset. Some people is that they're always just too lustful. They're always running after pleasures in life. Some people don't have patience. Everybody has their own inner demon to work with. Let's read a piece of the Talmud that discusses the issue of having a Yetzer Hara. Fascinating story about one of the Talmud's greatest sages, Abaye. Anybody ever heard here about Abaye? Great sage Abaye. Okay, text 6. Where are we holding? Marshall, where about you? Text 6 on page 129 from the Talmud.
Abaye overheard a man suggest to a woman, "Let's get up early in the morning and travel together." When she agreed, Abaye told himself, "Ay vey, I better follow them to prevent them from doing something forbidden again." He shadowed them for a distance of 3 parasangs. He trudged through a reed-filled marsh while they walked along the road beside him. However, they did not use the isolation in the early hours and opportunity to sit together. As they parted ways, Abaye heard them commenting, "The road was quite a run, but the company was certainly fun." Abaye then told himself, "If I were that man, I wouldn't have managed to restrain myself from sitting with them." As he stood in thought, slouched against the doorpost, and feeling distressed, a certain elder approached him and said, "A greater person has a greater inclination to sin."
Fascinating story. So Abaye sees a young man and woman, not married, single, saying, "Early morning, let's go hang out in the woods." And he's like, something not so kosher is about to happen here. I'm going to go make sure nothing bad happens. And guess what happens? It was... everything was good. Everything was healthy. Everything just going on a walk together. And Abaye, first of all, says, "Wait, 1 second. I assumed the worst. You want to know why? Because I know if I was in that situation, it would have been the worst." Also, he's realizing, 1 second, am I really that bad of a guy? Am I that weak? Am I that lustful? Am I that just animalistic and coarse? It's very... He slouches against the doorpost. He gets a little bit depressed, a bit distressed. Maybe I'm not that great of a guy who I thought I was. Like, look, here's just some regular 2 people. They're not big sages, and look at them. They're just normal. They're not losing themselves, and which isn't that so relatable? Something happens to us, and we start doubting ourselves. Maybe I'm incapable. I lose my patience and my kids. Maybe I'm just a bad parent. Maybe I just don't know how to do this. I'm failing at a job. I'm just not keeping up with deadlines. I don't feel that I'm successful at it. Maybe I'm just not. Maybe I'm just inadequate. Maybe I'm just a bad person. Maybe I'm just a little bit damaged goods. Okay, so a certain elder comes and says, "No, don't worry about it. The greater a person, the greater his inclination." So yeah, you're a greater person, so you have a bigger Yetzer Hara. You have a bigger evil inclination. Okay, sounds like a nice thing. So he's like, "Don't worry, you're still good. You're a good guy." Let's think that. What does that mean? We have to process this. What does it mean that the greater a person, the greater his Yetzer Hara? What's the logic behind that? So if you look in the commentaries, it's a very simple reason. God wants every single person to have free choice. God wants every single person. I mean, if you open up the Talmud and you look at the commentaries in the Talmud, it's a very simple concept. People have to have balanced lives. The impulse to do good and the impulse to do bad has to be equal. If there's a person who's such a strong impulse to do bad and he has such little energy to do good, it's not fair. If somebody has so much energy to do good and no impulse to do bad, it's also not fair. Life has to be a struggle. There has to be a certain healthy tension to life. So that's how God makes it. The greater a person is, the more challenges he has. The simpler a person is, the weaker a person is, God gives him less challenges. But that also seems a little bit not so fair. So you're telling me the better I am, the bigger my challenges become? God says, "Oh, you're doing well. Let's throw in 10 more pounds. Oh, you're doing good? Another 10 pounds. That's not fair." So is life this like endless treadmill that the better I become, the greater I become, the holier I become, the more I grow morally, ethically, in character, then also the bigger my challenges become? But this is conventional wisdom. The classic analysis of the Talmud is the greater person, God gives him a bigger Yetzer Hara. You're big, you've got to have a big Yetzer Hara. Which is a little bit not fair, right? And maybe growth is like pointless. What's the point of me growing and becoming better if all it means is I'm never going to overcome my weaknesses. My weaknesses only grow with me. The monster gets bigger along with me. What's the point? The Rebbe took this piece of Talmud and said, you got it wrong. It's not that God gives a greater person a bigger Yetzer Hara. It is the bigger Yetzer Hara that makes the greater person. What's the cause? What's the effect? It's not, oh, you're great, let's give you a bigger Yetzer Hara. No. God gives you the bigger challenges, and those challenges themselves is what made you bigger. Abaye, you want to know how you got so great? Not despite your Yetzer Hara, because of it. Greatness comes from overcoming our own personal challenges. Greatness is not by staying great, trying to be great, despite all those challenges and shortcomings God gives us. That is what makes it happen. So when somebody doesn't have so much challenges, okay, there's a limit to how great he could become. But when God gives you a bigger challenge, ooh, you're destined for greatness. This itself is what makes you great. The Rebbe gave an example. The Rebbe said this, the Shabbos. It was a Friday early afternoon when the Apollo 9 mission, if I'm not mistaken, orbited the moon for the very first time. Which was a big deal. And so that Shabbos, the Rebbe said, what's the lesson we can learn from a rocket? The Rebbe always tried taking something contemporary and learning from it. So I said, how do you build a rocket? A rocket is massive, but the actual rocket is very small. So what's the whole massive tower? What's going on there? You know, Nathan? What's in the rocket? Fuel. Over 90% of a rocket is fuel. Now, if you're an engineer and you want a rocket to go up, do you want to be loading it with a massive, gigantic tube of fuel? No. Because what does the fuel do? This weighs it down. Hold on a second. We're trying to go up. We're not trying to stay down. Let's lighten the load. That's what an engineer would say. What's the only problem? Listen, if there's no fuel, there's no problems. You're not going to be pulled down too much, but you're not really going too high. So what do? The force that is making you so heavy is itself what propels you upwards. So the Rebbe said like this. Right? What does the Rebbe say? The Rebbe's analysis is, it's not that a greater person gets the greater Yetzer Hara. It is the greater Yetzer Hara that makes you the better person. There are a lot of things in life we could look at that are just a drag. I'm trying to go up. I'm trying to be a good person. I'm trying to be a productive person. I'm just trying to be normal. I'm just trying to be healthy. And now what's going on over here? Why is God doing this to me? I mean, all this drag and all this pressure pulling me down. And sometimes we think like the engineer, let's just get rid of all the problems. I could just be a normal guy. This itself is the fuel of life. When we learn how to harness and overcome our challenges, that is where we find our greatness. That's what gives us lift. That itself is a success. So the rocket equation. The tremendous amount of fuel allows the rocket to propel into space. Look at that. You see? Boom. Lift off. Okay. And the same thing. The baggage that we are loaded with is what propels us to greater heights. You know how Abaye got so great? Not despite his challenges. It was because he has such a great Yetzer Hara. Because he had to fight so hard. That is what made him to be so great. Let's read text 7. Alex, what about you? Text 7, page 131.
In order that the good inclination should be able to soar even higher, there is a need for tremendous quantity of material. The inclination for evil that stands in opposition. The more this quantity is increased, meaning the more powerful one's inclination for evil, so will the ascent caused by overcoming it be all the higher.
Okay. Now I want to read to you a letter. We didn't have any letters from the Rebbe yet in this class. Here's a letter. To a young man who struggled with a certain internal challenge, a certain temptation, and it was a very difficult, he was plagued by this. He also saw that his peers weren't struggling with what he was struggling. So God made him have such a difficult fight to fight. And what he wrote to the Rebbe is, it's not fair. If God wants me to just be a normal person, if God wants me to be a good Jew, why in the world is God doing this to me? Why is God just torturing me and making me suffer with all this difficulty? Why does God make me work so hard? No one else, none of my other friends have this problem. Me, I have to have it. Why did God just make me so damaged? What's up with this? The letter from Rebbe is quite lengthy. It's such a compassionate letter. Here's one little paragraph. Just hear how the way the Rebbe speaks to him about his problem. Richard. Text 8, page 132.
Beneficial challenges. No human being can answer such questions, which only Hashem, the Creator, can answer. One observation that can be suggested in relation to questions, why me? If an individual experiences a particular difficulty or trying situation, it may be assumed that God has given him extraordinary powers to overcome the extraordinary difficulties. The individual concerned is probably unaware of his real inner strength. The trial may therefore be designed for the sole purpose of bringing out from the individual his hidden strengths, which after overcoming his problem can be added henceforth to the arsenal of his revealed capabilities. In order to utilize both for infinite greater achievements for the benefit of himself and others.
Rebbe says, I know you're going through a difficult time, but I want you to know you have extraordinary powers. You have a special gift to give to the world. And it's these challenges itself that will help you realize it, will give you that lift, give you the speed, will allow you to grow. So embrace the challenge. I know it's a challenge, but it's a gift. It will teach you who you are, it will bring out who you are, and the greater the challenge, it means the more God believes in you, the more greatness is waiting in store for you. And therefore accept it. Every single challenge, there's some goodness in there. We have to channel it correctly. I want to show you a video. Let's do a video, Louis. You ready? All right. Here we go.
I came to Crown Heights to try out Yiddishkeit, to go into yeshiva. I wanted to see if I wanted to be religious. I ended up staying there for 4 years, or a little more. In those years, I requested from the Rebbe a tikkun. I wasn't happy with some of the things, the way I behaved in the past. Okay. The Rebbe said, use it as a lever against itself. For example, if you are such an egoist, if you see someone else learning better than you, say to yourself, I can certainly learn better than that. And then go and do it. And when the Yetzer Hara sees what it's being used for, oh, stop bothering me. Okay, that's the end of the Yechidus.
Is doch mit Teva Hatzevle Heiti, ist doch verstandig, a jeder Linien, was tut sich in der Ebersten Welt, was ist dort der Rein und Einziger Balabos, ist doch eine sichere Sache, als in der Ruf muss sein, behalten Tev, und sie mehr nicht wie Tollui, an den Menschen, als soll sich in der Ruf missbeinen sein. Ist auch viele, wenn der Tev ist behalten, ist eine sichere Sache, als wird am Eis gefunden.
He was saying to me, you have to realize that God is good, and everything that you experience in this world during your life, even if your own inner negative character traits or whatever, it's all from God, and it all is nothing more than an opportunity.
Benele sei das mehr nicht tolle Bei, soll suchen, Kedorush, wird sicher gefunden, bis in ein Leben von als damit werden richtig, aber der Tev ist da echt in der Minyan.
When I was studying in Montreal, I was having a great difficulty with my study partner, with my chavrusa. We would be at loggerheads with each other. We would study the Talmud, the Gemara, whatever he would say, I would say differently, whatever I would say, he would say differently. And I went into the Rebbe, I thought there was something wrong with me, that I'm just arguing with the guy all the time. And I told the Rebbe that I need some guidance as to how to handle this. The Rebbe said, it would appear that one of your latent gifts is pilpul, the ability of analyzing and arguing and coming to certain conclusions, not simply straightforward. The Rebbe said that I should spend time in working at pilpul.
Ist eine sichere Sache, bechol Linien wie Linien ist dort Tev und Peloschen HaYudu, was sagt in Yerushalmi, als ihm reich ist, dass Humi käm, bemerkt nicht dem Tev. Oder ein Gefintem nicht, dass Humi käm, reich ist, Humi käm, ist die Sibelose, was hat nicht gesucht, wo man darf suchen oder wie man darf suchen.
You know, you could have taken a situation which, well, to me it was quite destructive and quite negative, and the Rebbe saw tremendous power in it and tremendous opportunity, tremendous potential in terms of developing a certain mode of study.
Dear friends, this is the final point, that even when there's internal adversity, the Rebbe teaches us to harness our flaws for greater positive achievements. It will only lead us to greatness. There's always tremendous goodness there. Never write off any of our own negativity. It's there for a reason. We have to work through it. We can't resign to it. Okay, dear friends, it's 9:02. Okay, it's 9:02, which means that officially we got to end right now. But I prepared something special for you. All right? Can I show you an encore video? And I think this is a video. It's a collection of different people going through different challenges. And I think you'll see all different kinds of challenges over here, and how the Rebbe didn't want them to have a defeatist attitude, whether there's internal challenges or situational challenges, but to embrace life with joy, just like we saw with the soldiers. See life as extraordinary. Nothing is wrong. I know things didn't work out the way you wanted it to. The picturesque version of life is that, but you have to embrace life. You have to believe in yourself. And there's a very emotional story over here. I was honestly, I don't get very emotional easily, But last night I was preparing for this class, and you know, this story got me teary-eyed, and I know his son. It's such a special story. We'll talk about it in a moment. So here, let's I want to show you this little video. It's a little bit long, but here we go.
In der Igris Rambam ist do a Jigeres, was beschreibt sein Leben, sein Seder Hayim und sein Seder Achayim. Seht men als Bepele noch nicht gewähnt, als Mensch abal Yisurim. Afal Pikein, kommt zu der Maskone mehr in der Woche und sagt, das ist der Schkoffe von Aiden, der Schkoffe von Tera, als diese Aiden, was man darf gucken auf der Welt bei ein Teva. Mit der Tikwa-Teva, mit der Bitochen, Chosek, Vechuli, wie dort meirig, bekam die Zeus, was kommen Reis von der Hanoche.
I considered running for the United States Congress in Florida. In 1989, I was running for Congress, something that had been a dream for a long time.
It was a big financial undertaking. He had sold a business. He was hiring people, and he was, he wasn't working, so we were going more and more in depth. We were young and didn't realize the impact of it.
I had no idea how really awful politics can be in terms of everything's reduced to bumper stickers, talk, bumper sticker language, nasty tactics. It was a rough going. I learned a lot through it. I did not win. We went up to my family's home up in the Berkshires, licking my wounds from a campaign.
Just needed to just be away from everything. He didn't have a job, and he lost a lot of money, and he was at a really, really, really down time. All of a sudden, he gets a call from Rabbi Groner.
The Rebbe said that I should not be downtrodden, I should be happy. Although I didn't win, it was still a bracha, and that I would be able to go on to make other contributions.
His entire demeanor, his entire way of thinking was different. Was different after it.
Al derech wie das ist bei Chayev ha-Protim shel ha-Pesek, ha-Meire Nevuchim, al derech sei das bei Chayev von Kol Am Yisrael. Sagt men a Yiden a Zivui, Iv das Hashem besimcha. Und noch in derselbe Teira, wo das ist a Heroe, sagt men a wenn is a Yid Eved Hashem, I das bechol drachecha doehu. Das ist a 24 Shoah Misles, is Eved Hashem, darf stehen in der Tnur von Simcha.
In 1956, my father had this building in Montreal. The ground floor of the building was his business, was the store, and the upper floors, the 2 floors, were rented out to small manufacturers. It was an 80-year-old building, and the insurance company told us that they were canceling the insurance. He didn't know how to deal with it. Everything was all on inventory. The inventory was flammable and everything could go at any time. He didn't feel he had the wherewithal to come up with enough money to tear it down and rebuild. He became very depressed. He came to New York with the plans for the building, and I joined to visit the Rebbe. My father was up at the desk with his hands flat on the desk, and he was bent over, and that's really how he had been for a couple of months, kind of bent over and depressed. The Rebbe said, "Reb Nosson, stand up straight." My father took his hands off the desk and he stood up straight, and then he told him that he has to be besimcha, and he has to be like a soldier who goes out to battle and doesn't know what's going to be, but he has the emunah that he's going to win. That's how you have to go back to Montreal and into your bank, to your bank manager, to the mortgage company, with full confidence that the Rebbeinu Shalom is on your side, and you're gonna be able to pull it off.
können sich bei sich werden erschrockener und herangefallener, was hat für ein Schliches. Was wird das können mit Malle sein, sagten ihm nicht, soll es wissen sein, dass mehr nicht bei die, was haben mehr nicht wie eine Bosse. Und der aber, was in der eine Bosse, ist jeder guckt auf Welt, ist beim Sumore Menechem hebt auf früher der eine Bosse sein und geht guck auf den Himmel. Und demut der Zetter Ruyu mi bore Eile wird beschaffen unter die Welt tegen. Und unter demut habt sich, dass es eine Welt, wo das Pardes und der Gani, wie Genuni של הקדוש ברוך הוא.
ההורים שלי נכנסו לרבה. אמא שלי נכנסת ובוכה לרבה. wenn פה getrogen mit dem Maschinen schmier. will nicht gehen mit dem Maschinen. hört nicht. Und will, dass der Rebbe soll gehen mal Broche, das soll ohne mehr. Der Rebbe אמר לאמא שלי, tot getrogen mit dem Maschinen, verläschemte, verstehe ich. Dein Bruder, dein Mamschich, dein Kein mit dem Maschinen. Und die wird stellen in Shidduchim. Und dann בשים אנחנו בטוב לבוב. אחר כך אמא שלי אמרה לרבי, אני הורדתי את המכשיר, אני רציתי שהרבי ייתן פרופת שאני אשמע. וקיוויתי שאני אשמע, שהרבי יברך ויפעל למעלה, שאני אשמע. כשהם יצאו, הכנסתי לרבי. הבאתי לרבי את הפתק. והוא אומר לי תוך כדי קריאה, ת"ז, בשמחו בטוב לבוב. והרבי הרים את העיניים. ושואל אותי, Du hörst mir, ja, אמרתי לרבי, כן. הרבי אמר לי, אתה ממשיך sein Kein mit dem Maschinen. Und du wirst sein בשמחה בטוב לבוב. Du wirst sein Kein, du zurückgefangen nach Israel. Und du wirst lernen כמו קידושין. תפרק deine חברים, רד mit den חברים. Und noch mal Kirche mit dem Ebenbesten. Und du wirst מצליח sein. Ich sagte dem Rebbe, aber ich will aber jetzt zu lernen gut. Der Rebbe hat gesagt, dann sei ein bisschen. Und du wirst מצליח sein.
Was Hastere sagt als darf sein so mehr, ist Simen, als hat von was zu sein so mehr. Wo mit dem beim nicht monen kein Sach, wo das nicht genommen ist, dass Heper von Teres sind. Und das hat wie von Teres sind.
כשיצאתי מהיחידס, הרגשתי שהרבי נתן לי כזה דחיפה שצריך להיות בשמחה. שברוך השם התחתנתי, הקמתי בית נאמן בישראל, ילדים פריים ושלמים, חיתנתי כמה ילדים. זה המסר שאני אומר, להיות בשמחה, וברגע שתהיה בשמחה, אתה תצליח.
He walked out of there a different person. The Rebbe just changed him from being despondent and worried to being confident. In fact, he shortly after managed to get the mortgage and managed to get it at a very good rate, and he did the building.
After the Rebbe's call, we moved to Maryland, and he got a presidential appointment with President Bush.
I was a senior diplomat and VP of the U.S. International Development Corporation. The impact of the Rebbe's message to me was that we all try to write our own book of what we want our life to look like. But God has a much better book in mind.
Bisher wird durchgenommen mit unter dem Gedank, mit der Aschkofe Alpitera. Unter dem wird der Be'er Pnei Melech Chai. Und lernt Teiro mis Mekaye Mitzvahs mit Teich Archove v'Arvocho Kipshutom. Begashmiyus.
All right, dear friends. What can I tell you? You know, this young boy So I know, not well, but I know a few of his children, older than me. Here's a boy who is depressed. He's broken goods. He can't hear. He's self-conscious of himself. And he was so desperate that the Rebbe should somehow do a miracle and make me hear again, make me normal. Make me just be normal. And, perhaps this was even a greater miracle. The miracle to get somebody to believe in themselves. You have a good life. Stop being self-conscious about yourself. Live your life. You're going to be successful. You're going to be amazing. Live it, breathe it, enjoy it. And that's the message. God's taking good care of us. No matter what's happening, dear friends, what an amazing evening it's been. This Sunday, in just a few days, our final class, Spiritual Heights, how we can grow. What is Rebbe's advice on growing in a healthy way? What are our goals? Big class coming up, our grand finale, dear friends. I want to wish you all a wonderful evening. Stay positive, stay strong. It's all for the good. We love when that happens, and we will see you all very soon. Have a wonderful week.